High Tide just got free in MTG Pauper and it's already putting back-to-back undefeated results in leagues, and today I will go over two decks to showcase its power. First, let's take a look at Mono Blue Poison Storm, a deck that uses Prologue to Pheresis as its primary win condition, with cards like Contentious Plan, Experimental Augury, and Vivisurgent's Insight to proliferate poison counters and other permanents like Everflowing Chalice and Pentad Prism to abuse them. Of course, High Tide plays a pivotal role in getting faster wins, and with the help of Snap, we can both outtempo our opponents and untap our lands in a deck ready to poison the meta. Game 1 is against Wildfire, and we start strong by cycling for a land and passing the turn. The opponent opens with an Ichor Wellspring, and I follow up with a Prophetic Prism. They play a second Wellspring and drop a Familiar, which forces me to discard a Lotus Petal. On my turn, I play a Pentad Prism with 2 counters and pass. On their next turn, they cast Eviscerator's Insight to draw 2 more cards, then play a Nihil Spellbomb and attack. Back on my turn, I cast Experimental Augury to dig for something playable. With several Proliferate cards already in hand, I opt for an Everflowing Chalice instead of a land and pass. Opponent untaps and plays Makeshift Munitions, then sacrifices a Wellspring to ping me for 1, and attacks before passing. I draw Prologue to Pheresis, cast it to start the poison count, and pass. As expected, they play their Riding Chrysalis. I choose to wait, hoping they spend all their mana so they can't counter my snaps. Fortunately, they tap out completely, so now's the perfect time. I cast High Tide, then use Everflowing Chalice to generate extra mana. I bounce their Chrysalis with Snap, bounce the Familiar with a second Snap, and start using my Proliferate spells at instant speed. After a couple of proliferations, I pass the turn. The Familiar comes back to punish me, but at least I avoid damage that turn. I untap, cast Vivisurgent's Insight to draw 3 cards, and pass with the poison count at 4. At the end of their turn, the opponent sacrifices their Spellbomb and then attacks. Before damage, they try to sack an Eldrazi Spawn for extra damage, so I bounce the Chrysalis again. In response, they sack it for 1 final ping, putting me down to 6 life. They play a second Familiar, which forces me to discard a land, but it looks like they can't kill me this turn. On my turn, I use Merchant Scroll to grab another High Tide. Then I cast Vivisurgent's Insight again, putting the poison count at 5. I follow up with Contentious Plan to proliferate again, revealing a second plan. I play Prophetic Prism to dig further and find an Experimental Augury. That leads me to another Prologue to Pheresis, and after chaining them back to back, I eventually close the game and win Game 1. For Game 2, I bring in a couple of Bring the Ending and head into sideboarding. Just like the last game, we start with a few setup turns. Unfortunately, an early Familiar forces me to discard a Steady Progress, but otherwise my mana base looks solid. I cast a Pentad Prism with 2 counters, then play Prologue to Pheresis to start the poison clock. On their turn, the opponent plays Duress, stripping my Prologue and limiting my options. On my turn, there's no reason to play High Tide yet, so I go for back-to-back Proliferate spells, bringing the poison count to 3 before passing. Next turn, the opponent plays an Avenging Hunter after attacking. That's definitely bad news, but luckily I have a Lorien Revealed I can cycle, so I cast both High Tides in my hand, using charges from Pentad Prism. Then I cast Lorien Revealed to draw 3 cards and follow up with Merchant Scroll to fetch an Experimental Augury. I cast that and reveal a Contentious Plan, which draws me into a Vivisurgent's Insight. I float some mana, then snap the Avenging Hunter to untap lands and cast Insight to draw 3 more cards. The poison count is now at 6. I use another Experimental Augury to proliferate again and find an Everflowing Chalice. With tons of mana available, I use my second snap to bounce the Familiar, then draw 3 more cards with Lorien Revealed. I play a Lotus Petal, and with the poison count now at 7, the opponent scoops. Another deck that can abuse High Tide is Azorius Familiars, a deck that historically has used win conditions like Sage Road Denizen to close games. But with High Tide, this deck just got better, as now you just need a Snap and an Arcumancer to go infinite. From there, it's just a matter of using it however you like, either by chaining multiple card draw spells to ultimately find both Prologue to Pheresis and Ghostly Flicker to win you the game. And with tutors like Merchant Scroll and Model the Mixture, this is an easy feat. Of course, Sunscape Familiar makes the combo go faster in a deck ready to retake the Pauper throne. In this game, I'll showcase just how powerful High Tide can be in the right Familiar shell. We start by cycling Lorien Revealed to grab a blue-white dual land. On our first turn, we use Ponder to find a negate, play Glacial Floodplain, and pass. Our opponent plays a Quirion Ranger and passes the turn. On our next turn, we cast Seagate Oracle, pick up a Snap, and pass it back. The opponent untaps and uses Quirion Ranger to help cast Axevin Guardian. On our turn, we cast Ponder again and find a High Tide. At this point, we can either bounce the Guardian with Snap or use our second Oracle to dig deeper. I choose the latter, grab another Snap, and pass. The opponent takes advantage of us being tapped out and slams a second Axe-Vein Guardian, then follows up with Lead the Stampede. Luckily, on our turn, we draw Sunscape Familiar, and that's where things start to snowball. We begin by casting High Tide, which makes our islands tap for extra blue mana. Then we play the Familiar. Use Snap to bounce one of their creatures and untap 2 islands, each now producing even more mana. We repeat the process with the second Guardian and cast Muldrifter for its evoke cost. We draw a couple of cards and hit another Muldrifter, so we go for it again. Then I cast Lorien Revealed, which finds Muddle the Mixture, perfect for tutoring a 2 mana blue instant. After attacking for 2, I transmute Muddle for a second Snap, cast another Lorien Revealed to draw 3 more cards, and pass. Opponent replaces the Guardian and passes. Luckily, I already drew my win condition and use it immediately to draw a card. Instead of keeping a Familiar on top, I choose to shuffle away 2 lands. Then I bring back Muddle the Mixture to tutor for Merchant Scroll, which gets us Ghostly Flicker, the other piece needed to go infinite. I attack again, because why not, and pass the turn. Opponent plays Saruli Caretaker, then a second Quirion Ranger, which I counter. Even so, they resolve another Axe-Vein Guardian and pass. I transmute Muddle, fetch Merchant Scroll, get the Ghostly Flicker, and pass while keeping mana up. After playing an Overgrown Battlement and Winding Way, the opponent finds a Galvanic Alchemist via Drift of Phantasms, but they're 2 mana short of comboing with the Guardian. That's great news, otherwise I'd have had to recover Snap and bounce the Guardian in response. Since we're safe, I blink Archaeomancer and Seagate Oracle with Ghostly Flicker drawing into Ephemerate, which is huge. Now I can bring back High Tide to my hand and use Ephemerate on upkeep. Then I recast High Tide, Flicker again, and replay Oracle, which finds another Archaeomancer. With that, I loop High Tides, generate infinite mana, and repeatedly return Prologue to Phyresis and Ghostly Flicker using Archaeomancer. By flickering a land and Archaeomancer, I can untap all my islands, generate infinite mana, and stack up infinite poison counters. After a million clicks, I finally win. On to Game 2. No sideboarding. This deck is solid. Though, in hindsight, I should have taken out God Pharaoh's Faithful, something I'll correct for Game 3. Spoiler alert. We start Game 2 with a Ponder. The snaps aren't great, so I shuffle and find a Sunscape Familiar. Meanwhile, my opponent plays a few creatures and uses Winding Way to refill their hand. I play a tap land and pass. Next turn, I untap, drop another land, and play the Familiar. Opponent untaps, plays a Guardian and a Caretaker, then passes. With not many options, I play a second Familiar and Seagate Oracle, hoping to hit an untapped blue source, but have to pass. Unfortunately, with that much mana, Walls is nearly unstoppable. I managed to counter their primary win condition, but I can't stop the Freed from the real combo and scoop. This time, I remembered to make some sideboard adjustments. On to Game 3. My opening hand is fine but not great, so I take a mulligan. The second hand is similar, but I keep it, putting away a High Tide I won't need right away. After a few setup turns, my opponent plays a Guardian, while I just keep playing lands. I counter their second Guardian and pass. They try to sneak in a Lead the Stampede, but it meets a Spell Pierce. They then go for Winding Way, which I also counter. On my turn, I use Lorien Reveal to draw 3 cards, and a Ponder finds both High Tide and Ghostly Flicker. Perfect. I can't do much against the second Winding Way, so I have big decisions to make. First, I cast High Tide to ramp, then I use Muldrifter and Ephemerate to draw more cards, finding another High Tide and Archaeomancer. I play a second High Tide for more mana, then drop Sunscape Familiar, followed by Archaeomancer to return Lorien Revealed. I try to flicker the Mancer and a land, but, as expected, they have Fairy Macabre to exile my only flicker. In response, I generate more mana, grab back Snap, bounce the Guardian, cast Lorien Revealed, then another copy of it. Once the dust settles, I pass the turn. Opponent replaces the Guardian, but I've got them locked. On upkeep, I use Ephemerate to return Mancer, get back Snap, cast another Familiar, bounce Guardian again, and negate their Tamiyo safekeeping. Then, I Ephemerate the Archaeomancer again, bounce another wall, attack, and that's when they scoop.